Hey guys, welcome back to Contest Prep University. I'm Joe Klemczewski with Adam Atkinson. We're in episode 3 of our series on plateaus. So we've covered accuracy and tracking and make sure everything's very objective. We've gone over how important it is to even get into food sources and maybe tinker around with the kinds of foods you're consuming. So Adam, the next logical step for me is to look at a client's meal spacing, and a lot of stuff has been talked about in the last couple of years with time-restricted eating and intermittent fasting. But whichever side of the road you fall on with that, it just stands to reason that for some people, based on their metabolism, based on their genetics, based on their activity level, based on the amount and the intensity of training and cardio, even their genetics in terms of being an ectomorph or endomorph, some people just do better with smaller, more frequent meals. Some people do better with a little bit more space between meals and larger meals. So do you ever dig into a client's daily food planning and say, let's do this, let's change the amount and the size of meals?
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the reasons I might do that is like their pre and post workout. I see a lot of people still thinking they need to do fasted cardio for some reason. And we've just proven that you're going to have a lower VO2 max and a slower resting metabolism the rest of the day if you do that. So even I have clients that battle me like, well, I feel better fasted. The meal doesn't have to be very big at all. It can be as low as 120 to 150 calories, but at least having something, you're going to allow your body temperature to rise more, you're going to sweat more, and you're just going to have a higher heart rate than you would if you would not eat. So that's one huge thing with me on looking at that structure. And then also just the organization of, are you pairing protein with carbs? Like, do these meals look planned or do they look really thrown together? And if they look thrown together, that's where I really want to generate some more structure, making sure someone's eating a pre and post workout meal, and just kind of looking at where their hunger cues fall within the day too. I think that's really important because we can implement like an anchor meal or something like that to make them feel better.
Yeah, I'm glad you went right to the pre and post workout meals, because that's a place where I think you almost have to go back to some really basic foundational information, which is you want to make sure, even if you're in a pretty stiff calorie deficit, that you are fueling that workout to be the best you possibly can. You want to be retaining muscle. You want to be guarding your strength. And so sometimes I know for me, it's always a little bit of a temptation to say, well, I want to burn a little bit more body fat, so I'll just do a scoop of protein powder after training, and then I'll wait a couple hours. But then, I'm starving a couple hours later, and had I just had a bigger meal to really recover well from that training, not only am I less hungry for the rest of the day, but I've truly replenished glycogen at a higher level. And so cumulatively, I really do, with just one small change, calories, macros, all staying the same, I end up getting bigger, stronger, and losing body fat just by making sure I've got enough food pre-workout and then a pretty good post-workout meal.
Yeah, absolutely. And those are times where you're just going to be a little more insulin sensitive too. So that's a great place to put those carbs.
Mm-hmm. And you mentioned an anchor meal, meaning just, kind of your biggest meal of the day. There's absolutely no reason to try and structure your day in a way that maybe you would have in the 90s, where it's like, oh, every 3 hours have this, protein, carbs, and fat. Sometimes you can go 4 or 5 hours between meals because you're just not hungry and you're not active at that part of the day. And that's more time between meals to tap into body fat. And so it's a really good idea just to experiment with the size and the frequency of your meals. And again, without even changing your calorie intake, you could end up making some pretty big changes and you could bust through plateaus that way.
Absolutely. And, a lot of people, if we have any people watching that are, intermediate fasting dieters, you just have to make sure that that application works for you. And I will say I've adopted more of an IF now because I don't train in the mornings like I used to. My training's midday. So I'm up at 5. I usually don't eat anything until about 9 right now. But that's an application that works for me. And that would never work when I was doing contest prep, when I was, training earlier in the morning.
Absolutely. Great example. So there you go, guys. That's one more thing to consider before you even start reaching for the red pen / calories. Just another way to look at plateaus and break through them. So in the next couple episodes, we're going to talk about things like training and cardio and all of that. So stay with us, and we'll see you next time in Contest Prep University.